All right, welcome everyone. This is Our Travel Experiences. I'm your host, Kyle Rasmussen, and today I have with me Katie. Katie, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. Like I said, or we were talking about before we hopped on here, looking forward to the weekend. Um, yeah, I'm excited to hear about your travel experiences. I know we actually had some travel experiences together recently, and then you went on an epic trip, it looked like, over Christmas. So I'm excited to hear about that.
Yeah. Well, I did travel to 16 different I did 16 different trips last year, but decided to, culminate that with one big five-country adventure over the Christmas holiday. So it actually started out as just a trip to Switzerland and then Milan, but being from the West Coast, sometimes it's easier to like fly into different airports to save like time and money. So I ended up
Mm.
tacking on London and Amsterdam to that trip. And then also finish it off by extending the trip in Banff, Alberta, Canada. So yeah, it was about 17 days, I think, worth of travel. And like I
Wow,
said, yeah.
that's super cool. I mean, the pictures looked amazing from what I saw. So, yeah, how did this trip kind of come about, and then, how did you decide to extend it?
Yeah, so I haven't seen my sister for the Christmas holiday since we did the Christmas European Christmas markets in 2019. So before COVID, and we had always talked about wanting to go to Switzerland. So we kind of just thought this was a really good opportunity. She had like the time off and I was available. So we were just planning to do Switzerland, but we thought it might be cool to go somewhere fun for New Year's Eve. So we looked at like a few different places, but there was three of us traveling and we've all been quite a number of places in Europe. But Milan is close to Switzerland and none of us had been there. And so that's kind of how we ended up with Milan. And then, like I was saying earlier, just it was cheaper and more convenient for me to kind of fly in and out of some of these other places.
Mhm.
But yes, we had one of our bucket list things was doing the Glacier Express train ride from St. Moritz, Switzerland to Zermatt. So that was like a big thing that we planned our trip around. Um,
Okay, tell me about that. I don't really know much about it.
so the Glacier Express is called like the slowest, fastest express train. It's like technically an express train, but it's 8 hours and you can do it in either direction. But we did it from St. Moritz to Zermatt. And it's basically a super scenic train ride, like through the Alps, and you go over a bunch of bridges and through a bunch of like small little towns. But we kind of splurged on it. It's called the Excellence class. Super expensive, but highly worth it if you have like the opportunity and economic means to afford it.
Mhm.
You kind of arrive at the train station and you have like your own like butler concierge who takes your luggage. You get like these really nice free like leather luggage tags to keep, and they do all the
Huh.
luggage handling. You're like shown to your seat. There's um, iPads there. You it's kind of like flying business. If anyone's ever flown like business class, like you get like pre-departure beverage. There's seven there's a 7 course meal. Like the drinks just flow endlessly, which is not good for me who can't like handle alcohol. You don't really get your money's worth, but yeah, and there's like a bunch of other little things in it, but it's just like a really nice way to, I mean, if you want to transit between those two cities, but I think more people do it as just kind of like a scenic like bucket list train ride. And like I said, it is expensive. I think it was about like $450 just for that first class experience. In addition to, you obviously have to have a train ticket.
Mhm.
So depending what route you go, like if you have like the Swiss train pass or you just buy like that one-off train ticket, the price can vary. Um, But yeah, I think it's like highly worth it. If you can't afford the excellence class experience, I still think just sitting in the regular class is highly worth it. And like, just want to note that, don't ever feel like ashamed for not doing like the fancy thing. I think all travel is luxury travel, if you think about how many people don't have like access to paid time off or a passport or like the ability to travel open borders or just like any of the
Mhm.
economic means, like it doesn't really matter if you take the train or a bus or a cheap airline. Just like the ability to like travel on that train is a privilege. So highly
For
recommend,
sure.
yeah, highly recommend it, whether you do like the excellence class or the regular class, which is very affordable, I think. So um yeah, you still go, you're still on the same train route, you know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
you'll have windows. It's just that, like, in the second class, you're sitting two by two. So maybe you don't have a window seat versus in excellence class, it's just like one, one in one.
Mhm.
So yeah. And it was also quite an experience because these couple got engaged on the train ride. So
That's cool.
it was funny, but yeah.
I can imagine. I mean, an 8-hour train ride through the Swiss Alps has to be, especially at winter time, has got to be amazing.
Yeah, it was absolutely beautiful. And like I said, you like go through all these small towns, you pass like a bunch of people skiing, and you're going over like bridges and it's really nice because they like point out like all the scenic stops along the way. Like you kind of like know what's coming up. Like you can put headphones on to get narration and information. And so like you can be like looking out the window, and kind of just like, make sure you're taking in like all the important sights and beautiful scenery and things like that. So,
That sounds so cool. How did you find out about that?
um, I am like super type A, so I do like a lot of research before like traveling somewhere. So, it's just something that I like came across in like online research, probably like through a travel blog or something. And knew like I wanted to do that. And then my sister was really the one that pushed for like, well, if we're gonna do it, like we might as well go all out and do the excellence class. So yeah, I think you can find a lot of videos of it on Instagram, honestly, these days. People do like taking the train ride, so
Hmm.
but I definitely came across it through like old school internet research. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's super cool. So yeah, what other fun things did you do like that while you were in Europe?
Yeah, I think that, well, not I think, I know the highlight of all three of our trip was, well, at least the Europe part was we went, it's called sledging, not sledding, sledging with a G. We did that in Prada, which is, it was about a 25-minute train ride from St. Moritz. And I basically think it's like extreme sledding. So I grew up on the East Coast and spent every childhood winter sledding, and I was not prepared for this. Um, it's very easy to, like I said, it's like a 25-minute train ride. If you're in St. Moritz, you can rent the like old fashioned sleds right at the train station. The guy was like, "Do you want a helmet?" And I was like, "A helmet? Like, what do we need a helmet for?" And I was like, "Whatever, like safety first." And I'm so glad I got the helmet. If anyone considers sledging in Switzerland, like please get a helmet. But basically, it's about 3.5 mile sledding track through the mountains.
Oh, geez.
It's absolutely insane. There's some parts where there's like not even a barrier, so you're like could potentially go over the mountain.
Oh gosh.
But I could not learn how to use the sled for like a solid 12 minutes. I kept crashing. My sister was convinced you just like leaned with your body to steer. And it wasn't until like a really nice local gentleman was like, you have to put your feet like press on the sled, to go. But I just have GoPro video and it's just me crashing a bunch. And you reach speeds of up to like 20 miles per hour at some point.
Oh man, that's
Yeah.
wild.
But it's definitely really scary. Like it's a thrill. Like it's one of those things that like you're scared, but you would do it again. Like if you know what I mean. Like it's kind of like
Hmm.
I think I'm going to die, but I love this feeling that I'm about to die.
Yeah.
And it's really nice because there's actually two sled runs. If you're up for the thrill, you go through the first one and you get to the bottom, and there's actually like a ski lift to take you to another sled run, but that one is considered steeper and more difficult. So if that's not your thing, there's like a really nice like bar down there where you can get like hot chocolate, and they have like these
Ooh.
benches carved out of ice and fire pits and things like that. And then you can like walk through. You actually sled from one town to another, so you can drop off your sled, visit the like cute little quaint town, and then take the train back. But yeah, we all agreed that was definitely the highlight of our trip. And it's like one thing, like if someone tells me they're going to Switzerland in the winter, they have to go sledging because yeah, it was absolutely beautiful too. Like you're actually going underneath those bridges I was talking about that the Glacier Express travels over. So like if
Okay.
you're lucky, you get to like speed through as the train's coming over, and you get like we were there at sunset, so we had like the suns like the alpine glow, and then you
Oh,
get like the train going over the bridge, like these stone bridges, and it's just like the definition of picturesque. While you're trying like not to crap your pants from like potentially falling over the cliff. But yeah, that was definitely, I think, the highlight of the Europe part. So
yeah, that sounds like so much fun. It sounds intense. I'm sure the adrenaline was pumping a little bit, but that sounds like a once in a lifetime experience that everyone has to try.
yeah, I definitely recommend.
Yeah, very cool. The hot chocolate in the bar is a little bit more my speed, I would say.
Well, if that is your speed, there's the one at the end of the sledging track, and then in the town where you catch the train and like return the if you rent you return the rentals, there's like an ice bar too that's like all lit up, and we stopped there as well. So we actually stopped at both bars on
Okay.
our way. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably do the bars before I did the
But
stretching.
I don't know how that would turn out, but
Get a little liquid courage there. Well, yes, I will get back to the Europe here in a minute. But speaking of ice bars, we actually went to an ice bar. What do you think of that up in Alaska?
yeah. That was interesting. I always think back to like that little hotel, not hotel, it's not a hotel room, but the little room in like the ice museum, which is where the ice bar is that you can like rent out. Just seems
Yeah,
like a very interesting experience. Yeah, the appletini was not the best drink I've ever had, but
no,
I don't know, sitting on ice and like drinking out of ice was like cool. I don't know. I liked how it kept the drink cold. I did like that, without like watering it down. It kept it
yeah,
cold.
yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Um,
that was an interesting experience. That was an interesting little tour there, and then the whole Appletini experience was cool. I definitely am glad that I did it. I don't know if I would do it again, but
yeah,
it was interesting.
yeah. I don't think I would do that again, but yeah, I think it's like one of those things that you just like do it once and cross it off the list, and you're
Yeah,
you're satisfied. So
yeah, definitely, definitely. Okay, so you're in Switzerland, and then you went down to Milan. What was Milan like?
um I don't know if I would go back to Milan, being honest. I mean, I would probably give it another chance, but um it was unfortunate because about like 2 weeks before we arrived, they had announced that they weren't doing the like their typical New Year's Eve concert because of like budget concerns and things like that. So it was like a little sketchy. There was just like random Italian men throwing like home like fireworks on the ground at people's feet. It was actually pretty like dangerous and scary. They would just like throw them in the trash cans. They thought it was funny, but we made the best of it. We did like the Duomo tour, which is like
Okay.
the big cathedral. I think it's like second largest cathedral in. in Italy. I don't know, something like second or third
Yeah,
maybe.
it's
Um,
beautiful.
yeah, so we did the tour where you like walk up all the steps and can go to the rooftop and um absolutely beautiful, great views of like Milan. But my favorite part was actually like the archaeological area, which is underneath the church. And it's like the old like baptisma. And it's just like really cool that they have like this whole um old area like preserved. So I really enjoyed that part the most. We were there when they were having Sunday service, which was like kind of not kind of cool. It was cool to experience. And obviously, you know, it's like an old short church, so like the architecture is insane. Like
Hmm.
sometimes it's hard to believe that like people back in that day were able to create such things, but yeah, so that was really great and it was pretty reasonable. I think it was like 17 US dollars for the access inside the church, access to do the rooftop. You can either choose to go up by steps or go up by elevator. I think the elevator is a little more expensive, I think. And then also access to the archaeological area and the museum. So I think it's like a pretty reasonable price for a good amount of time you can spend and learn a lot. So that was great. And I think, though, my favorite was we did a cooking class with a local Italian woman in her home.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
so we made two different types of pasta and then tiramisu, and she was on MasterChef.
Oh,
So
wow.
that was like really cool, like talking to her about that experience and just like her home was so eclectic. Like she had like all these like dolls and just I don't even know, like it was just super eclectic and um yeah, it just felt like, oh yeah, I'm in like a legit Italian person's home, like learning how to cook like some Italian food. And you know, cuisine, they often say like food is like a really good bridge between like cultures and it's like a really good way to experience
Mhm.
cultures. And like I think not only eating you know, local food, but learning how to like make it and take that home with you is like a really good way to like remember your travels and where you've been and things like that. So I really enjoyed that. I think we spent like we were there for like three and a half 3.5 hours or something. Like we were there so long. But yeah, we made the
They
food, we
take their
got to
time,
sit
don't
down
they?
and eat it and we had like wine and cheese, like cheese, so much cheese on this trip, by the way, like between the fondue and everything. But yeah, that was a good highlight of um, Milan. And you know, it is the holidays, so I think like one caveat is like when you're traveling to some of these places, especially outside the U.S. um, lots of things aren't open like on the holidays or around the holidays. They like close
Mhm.
down or they're not open as long as they are like, you know, here in the US some things like around the holidays, you know, they may still have like pretty decent operating hours, but that's not really the case in Europe. So it's just something to keep in mind that some things you may want to do may be impacted a little. So yeah.
Mhm. Definitely. I know that's one of the issues, usually we're traveling during the holidays. But there's always stuff that's closed during the holidays, so it can be tough to plan the trip for sure.
Yeah, we ran into that with like in Zurich. We started our trip in Zurich. Well, the three of us started our trip in Zurich, and we wanted to do the Lint Museum, the Lint Chocolate Museum, but
Oh
it
yeah.
was closed obviously on Christmas and the day following Christmas, and they had limited hours on the 24th. And my sister and her boyfriend got stuck in the ice storms in the U.S. and were sat at JFK for like 5 extra hours. So
Oh man.
we weren't able to get to that, and it just wouldn't have been possible, you know, because of the closures and stuff. So just something to like
Mhm.
keep in mind. And
Yeah. That's a good excuse to go back though.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've seen it, but the Lint Chocolate Museum is like right outside of Zurich, and they give you like insane amount of samples. Like you got like the truffles, you got like spoons where you can just like pour melted chocolate on your spoons. You got like, you know, pieces of the chocolate bar. It's just like chocolate heaven. And it's, you know, way worth the like $15 it costs to get in my opinion, because you could definitely eat more than $15 worth of lunch. And they're unlimited. They're like unlimited free samples. So definitely an
Jeez,
excuse to go back.
it's like the best Costco ever.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, what other good foods did you have on your trip?
Um, we had a traditional Swiss fondue Christmas dinner at Swiss. It was called Swiss Chuchi in Zurich, and it was the best fondue I've ever had. We ate like fondue in some other Swiss cities, and it wasn't as good. That was definitely a highlight. And then in Amsterdam, I had this pancake, I guess, from this place called Pancake Upstairs. It seats like it only has like four tables in it, so it's really hard to like get a reservation or like dine there. And I had like an apple and cheddar pancake, and like it looked, if I showed you the picture, you'd be like, "What is that?" And that looks gross, but it was so delicious. Once again, like I said, just a bunch of cheese on this trip. And then in London, the afternoon tea, obviously, like being in London, you can't beat a scone, like a
Yeah,
warm scone. um, but I think the best thing I ate was actually not in Europe. It was in Canada. I went to this place in Banff called Nourish, and it's like a vegetarian restaurant. And I had the best ramen of my life. And I talked to the owner, and he's like a big ramen fan. He has like ramen tattooed on his leg. Um, he's traveled to Japan, and I was just like, this is the best ramen of my life. Before that, the best ramen I actually had was in Canada as well, but it was in Vancouver. And he was saying his favorite ramen's in Vancouver, and that's like what he used as inspiration. But I've been thinking about that ramen like ever since. It's one of those dishes that you have like on your travels, and you just are like keep thinking about it, and you're like, I want to go back just to eat this.
yeah.
So, but lots of good food in general. But the ramen was definitely number one.
That's hilarious. That's not what I would expect you to say, traveling to
I
Europe
know.
and Canada.
Yeah, it's like not a at least not in like Alberta, in like other parts of Canada where there's high like Asian influence. It makes sense, but yeah, ramen in Canada was yeah a little interesting. But
Yeah, so how was Banff? I mean, I saw that picture of the Northern Lights when you were there, and that was just insane.
yeah, so well, obviously, as you know, we saw the Northern Lights in Alaska, and then on my
Mhm.
way to Canada, we flew over Iceland, and I actually saw the Northern Lights from the plane, like from my plane seat. And I
Oh,
remember like
wow.
thinking like, this is insane. Like I've seen the Northern Lights twice now in like, 3 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever it was. And I landed that night, and I knew that there was like a strong forecast, and that the Northern Lights could be visible, like, if everything worked out, possibly all the way to Banff. And when I got to the hotel that night, I was like, all right, let me just like see if they're out. And I stepped onto the balcony, and it was just like the Northern Lights over the mountain range. And I was just like, this is like absolutely insane. Like I was just like, to see the Northern Lights in like three different places in a month was um I don't know, it's not something you really think you're like gonna ever experience, or like I didn't plan to go to like Banff to see the Northern Lights, or like I didn't
Mhm.
plan to see the Northern Lights from my plane seat or anything like that. But yeah, I actually rented a car as well for one night to like try to go chase the Northern Lights. But there was like a pretty bright moon. So it was a little hard to see the following night. But I got to like, drive around, go to some like really nice serene places. I don't know, there's just something about like nighttime with snow and just like pure quiet, and like the
Yeah.
like the no like it's like there's no noise, but there is a noise, if you know what I mean. Like, I guess it's just the noise of nature that you can hear. So, that was really nice. I traveled to like a few spots, like trying to just spot them, and didn't get to see them the second night, but I still consider it a success. So,
Yeah, I would say so.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, it's just to see him three times, within a month. That's pretty wild. If you don't live that far north. But yeah, it's weird with the whole snow at night thing. It's weird because I get what you're saying. It's a weird, like, it's more quiet
yeah,
uh than normal. I
yeah,
don't know how to explain
yeah.
it.
I don't know how to explain it either. It's just like if you've experienced it, then you'll know what I'm talking about. It's kind of just
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, there's something magical about the snow at Christmas time, and I think traveling, with the snow, with all the lights, all the Christmas lights and everything. I think it's the best time of year to travel.
yeah, it really is. Um, I can definitely agree with that.
But you did what did you say, 16 different trips last year?
Yeah, it was basically at minimum a trip a month, at least. So,
That's wild. Where all did you go?
yeah, I started out 2022 in Hawaii. So I actually, my mom used to live in Hawaii, so I took her back. She hasn't been back since she lived there. So I took her for her birthday. We spent a week in Oahu. And then I went to upstate New York. And then Lake Tahoe, which is pretty close. I can drive there. I didn't need to fly. Then I did three of the five Utah national parks.
Okay.
Um, yeah, that was another trip. I did a hike with a llama in Capitol Reef. That was really fun, and like new experience.
How
And
did that happen?
like I said, I'm super type A, so I do like a lot of research into like where I'm going. Just looking for like I love looking for like new and unusual things or like ways to experience a place. So like yeah, we were going to like the national parks and you always like hike and things like that, but I was like, is there anything we can do that like you can't do somewhere else or something like that, and just came across these like llama hikes, and I was just like, let's do it. Yeah, so I got the llama that liked to poop a lot, but yeah, it was fun. So yeah, I highly like. I think it's really it's just like a really good thing if you can to like try to find like a unique way to experience something. I think a lot of times that's
Mhm.
normally like seeking out like locals that are like running tours or something like that. They're normally the people that obviously have like a lot of the knowledge and the passion and the love for the place, but they normally offer like some unique experiences, or maybe it's a similar experience that you can find like through a tour operator, but it's a little there's something else about it that like makes it different from those. So, um, being type A isn't all bad sometimes.
Yeah, how do you typically do your research? I know you said you do a lot of old school internet research, but do you have specific places that you go to, different sites or different podcasts or blogs?
Um, you know, no, I feel like Google is my best friend. I used to use like Pinterest a lot, but not so much anymore. But that was like in the past like a really great way for me because like you can literally go on Pinterest and just search like uh, Milan at Christmas. There's, a really easy way to get like all the blogs about Milan at Christmas.
Mhm.
Um, I definitely like do use like take inspiration from like Instagram and things like that these days. It's just really easy. Um, I don't think there's like it depends on the place because like as you know, I love going to the Pacific Northwest and there's like some bloggers up there that like I specifically use like their blogs like when I'm going up there to like plan trips. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I think it's just utilizing like everything at my disposal. and obviously like, drawing inspiration and ideas and recommendations from like people who have been there. But yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, for me, I mean, I think Google is what I usually use. I just Google where I'm going.
Yeah.
Or TripAdvisor can be
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
sometimes.
Sometimes I really, during this trip I used Get Your Guide, which is like, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's like basically like it's kind of like Airbnb experiences, like same thing. Like they just have like, you can get like the tickets for like I used it to get tickets for like the Duomo, but like it also has like experiences on there. And like I was able to save a lot of money like going through that site because they were like, things were discounted on that site. And then also like my credit card was offering like 10% off, like, you know, from that website for the end of the year. So saved a lot of money. But like sometimes I go on like sites like that. Like I have done things through like the Airbnb experiences. That's like a really good way to like, even if you don't end up booking it through them, just like seeing like what your options are to like do
Mhm.
in a place, like what type of things there are to do, is really good. And I don't discredit like the local tourism bureau. I used that for Alaska. I used it for Banff. They had like really great information, and like they also have like their own blogs on there, that they have people write, or
Mhm.
whether it's like city staff or like locals or like the, influencers and things they hire. But like, yeah, definitely don't discredit like the local tourism bureau. They're obviously gonna know the most. So because I
Yeah.
found some people like to like not mention all the information, like online these days. Like they kind of leave out like key bits and pieces for like clicks and likes and things like that. So um yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, I think doing any sort of research is good. And then I think once you're there, talking to the locals, asking what they like to do, where they like to eat. I think especially for food, I love doing that because
Yeah,
that's where you're going to get the best food.
yeah, exactly. Those little hole in the wall places are.
Yeah, those are
Yeah.
the best.
Yeah. I mean, I should know. Like I think you really do have to do your research, but you also need to have like a little like spontaneity. Like
Hmm.
I don't plan like all details of my trips. Like it is important to like have spontaneity and be flexible. But if there is something you really want to do, I think it's like, for me at least, I'm like, all right, like when are they open? You know, you don't want to like go show up on a Tuesday and find out the museum that you like traveled all the way across the world to go to is closed on Tuesdays, and like you
Yeah,
leave today. So yeah,
exactly.
good mix of like research and spontaneity like is sets up for a good trip.
Hmm. Definitely, definitely. Okay, so you were saying Utah, and then what trips were after that?
After Utah, I went to SoCal, and then I did my long-awaited Alaska trip, summer Alaska trip. Um, Came back from there, I went to San Diego for the first time in 10 years. Then I went to Montreal. That was like a spontaneous trip, to Montreal, Canada. And then I did a road trip, and I hate driving. Did a road trip from St. Louis, Missouri to Seattle, Washington.
Oh
So
wow.
went through Missouri, went through Nebraska, Iowa, South Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, and then Washington, um, around Labor Day. Went back to San Diego again. um,
Mhm.
and then I did Washington, for Golden Larch season to check off some bucket list hikes. Did, let's see, I went to New York City to go to the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Oh,
Um,
how was that?
yeah, it was like a bucket list item since like I was a kid growing up on the East Coast and just playing sports, like basketball runs during Thanksgiving. So never
Hmm.
had the opportunity. So my sister lives in the area, and we were both like, we're free, we're not doing anything this holiday, like let's do it. We, woke up super early. We're sitting there since like 6 a.m. Right around like Macy's Herald Square. Like we were trying to get as close as we can, and it was cold, but it's definitely, as we were saying earlier, it's definitely one of those things that like you have to do it once, and then like you're satisfied. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that was super fun. I'm really glad I did that, and then was there for like some of the Christmas things. So I went and saw like the Nutcracker, all that kind of stuff, and then went to, I think I'm missing some, but then went to Fairbanks, where I met you, and then
Mhm.
yeah, after Fairbanks was this big Europe trip in Europe and Canada. So
Man, that sounds like an amazing Euro travel.
yeah, it was. Yeah, it was great. So
Are you gonna try to beat the 16 trips this year? Go for like 20 or 25?
yeah, I hope so. Like yeah, every time an airline emails me like we're having a sale, I'm just like, all right, where can I go? Life's. I feel like life is really short and really fleeting, and um, just got to do things when you want to and when you can. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Definitely. I mean, I'm gonna guess you probably don't regret taking any of those trips.
Not at all. I feel like I regret not taking like other trips that like I had planned and didn't pan out. And I think that's something I really learned in like 2022 is to like I love traveling with other people and experiencing like all these places and things and moments with like people who are important to me. But like also at the same time, I think it's important to recognize like you can't always wait for people and like you
Yeah.
know, um, delay your own like gratification or things you've always wanted to do. And that was like a big thing for me in 2022 was to like just decide to like just do it, just like, do the damn thing. And I went to Montreal alone. I did London alone. I did Banff alone, and yeah, I kind of regret like not earlier going to places because it would mean like I was going alone. Um, so
Mhm.
yeah, don't regret taking any of those trips, just regret not taking other trips. So
Yeah, I feel the same way. And definitely like I totally get the you can't wait around for other people. Um it- I've tried to travel as much as possible in my life, and it just no, a lot of those trips would not have happened had I waited for someone to go with me. And I
yeah.
would have missed all of those life experiences and opportunities and wouldn't have met, so many people. And I don't know. So I know it can be more fun traveling with other people, but you actually got to travel too. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
solo travel can be really rewarding as well.
Yeah, I think you like learn a lot about yourself.
Mhm.
You like be comf you learn to be comfortable being like uncomfortable. Like I've traveled solo like, many places, but I feel like every time I go, like there's still some things like, that like maybe I'm like scared to do it alone or like worried or
Yeah.
whatever. And I think like I'm not sure that will like ever go away with solo traveling. Like no matter how comfortable you are, I think like there may still be like moments that are like that. But yeah, I think I look at it as like I have the time right now to go and I want to go. So if no one will go with me, I'm gonna go by myself. And if the opportunity is there to go back, then I can do that. But like I can't guarantee myself if I don't go now that like there will be an opportunity or a time to go back. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You never know like your physical condition or economic like you never know what's gonna happen in life. So it's
Mhm.
kind of like literally just jump on the opportunity and yeah, I don't think like anyone would ever have any regrets. Just kind of like seizing the moment, and that's what I did with Banff. So, and it was the best decision ever. I When I decided to change my flight, originally I was just flying Amsterdam to Calgary and then having like a overnight layover and then flying back home. And like I had thought about it and I was just like, the worst thing I can do is start 2023 with regrets. And I was just like, I've waited 8 years. Like this is ridiculous. Like who waits like 8 years, like when they have like the economic means and like all of that. So um, yeah, I just think it's a like good message because I think a lot of times people are just scared to go alone, and it's fun.
Mhm.
Like I had a blast by myself in all those places, and on the plus side, like you don't have to deal with anyone snoring next to you. You know, you can you can wake up whenever you want. You can do whatever you want. So yeah,
Yeah, you don't have to worry about pleasing everyone and making
yeah,
sure everyone's happy or on, everyone's on different schedules maybe or you
yeah.
just do whatever you want. So when you were in Banff, what else did you do besides chase the Northern Lights?
So I snowshoed on Lake Louise.
Ooh.
Um, yeah, it was amazing. It was most people are actually like on the lake ice skating, so they're like confined to a section. So it felt like I was like almost alone kind of on the lake. And I that was like my first full day in Banff, and I'm just like snowshoeing on this frozen lake, and I kind of like get to the middle of the lake and I just like stop, and I'm like taking pictures, and then I kind of just like sitting there looking at everything, and I just like plop down in the snow. And kind of just like it was one of those moments where I was like, like, is this real life? Like, is it like I literally like remember like saying to myself, like, is my life real? Because it was so beautiful. Like Banff is one of, if not the most beautiful place I've ever been. Um,
Oh, wow.
yeah, and I just like remember it was just like one of those moments where you kind of just like at a loss for words. And it was like I just did this like whole Europe trip, like, and like here it is, beginning of like 2023, and like I'm kind of like at that point where I'm reflecting on 2022 and like trying to figure out like what I want for myself in 2023. And I'm like, I just did this thing. Like I'm here after 8 years, and I don't know, it's just like absorbing the moment and like, yeah. And so that was really great. Snowshoeing. There's like you can go ice skating, you can play hockey, there's like sleigh rides around the lake you can do. Um, so like there's definitely a lot to do. I also did a hike at Johnston Canyon. That was really fun. Went like early in the morning, so there wasn't a lot of people there, so it was like super blissful. Um, and not it was pretty cold. It was probably like 2 degrees Fahrenheit. I don't know, but not as cold as Alaska, but
Oh
definitely
my
cold.
gosh, that was so
Yeah,
cold.
that was terrible. So that was really fun. There was the upper falls were closed, so that was kind of unfortunate, but still a really great hike overall. Went along the old Canadian highway, like kind of trying to scout for wildlife, and um, then I also did the like infamous Banff gondola. So I took the gondola up to the top of Sulphur Mountain. That's really fun, and it's pretty pricey, but they have like a great interactive area with like a lot of information that would be like really good for kids. I mean, I still had fun. Then you can go out on the rooftop and just get like the 360-degree views. And I walked out to where the old weather station was, and that was really great. That was like another thing that was like just these views of the Canadian Rockies, and you have like a view of the actual town of Banff, and it was like everything else in Banff, like absolutely beautiful. And um, they have a like immersive experience. I didn't do that, but it's like at nighttime, and there's like like they like have like bar and everything, and it's definitely
Mhm.
more I think there's like an age limit, definitely more for adults, but like it's kind of like supposed to be this whole like immersive experience to like experience the Rockies like at night, and it's like outside a lot of it. So that would have been cool. I tried to go to the hot springs, which is like the hot springs are what led to Banff becoming a national park. Like that's what led them to protect the area. Um,
Hmm.
but unfortunately, it's definitely one of those places you have to like arrive early at or be prepared to wait like 2 hours to go into the hot spring. So kind of waited in line a little bit, and then I was like, it's this is not going to happen. So yeah, just a little tidbit if you want to visit those hot springs, definitely probably arrive earlier in the day. Um, and then I kind of just like explored the downtown, but there is like, I just came from like Switzerland and went skiing there and things like that. So, but there's obviously like three big ski resorts. You can go tubing, there's dog sledding, snowmobiling. There's literally like no shortage of things to do. And you don't actually need to rent a car either. Like there's lots of tour operators. There's buses that will take you to like Lake Louise and to the gondola, and I think it's like $1.44, like US dollars, like the bus ride. So it's like really cheap and easy way to get around. And um yeah, but there's like no shortage of things to do. I rented snow boots because I didn't feel like packing another thing in my suitcase
Yeah.
that was heavy. So it's like a really easy way to like cheap and easy way to explore if need be.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, Banff sounds amazing. I know that's been, at the top of my list. I always thought about going in the summer, but now, I mean, it sounds like the winter time would be even more amazing.
Yeah, I definitely want to go in summer too. I think it's one of those places that like you can, no matter what season you go in, it's like really fun and lots to
Hmm.
do, and or like one of those places that like you kind of just need to visit in every season. Like that's how I felt about it. Like I did it in the summer and then I was like, I want to go in the winter. So Banff feels like the same way. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. Having been to Alaska now, I would want to experience it in all the different seasons because I think they're all very distinct and there's,
mhm.
very distinctly different things that you can do and see.
Yeah. Yeah, like in the winter in Banff, like you can't get to Moraine Lake, which is like the top thing in
Hmm.
Banff is like Moraine Lake. And like that's just inaccessible in winter. And like Lake Louise is frozen over until like mid-June, so it's kind of like, there's just like different things to see and do and different ways to experience the place depending on the season. So
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, well, I guess what trips do you have coming up this year?
So far I have another trip back to Europe, going back to one of my favorite countries. So I'm going back to Sweden and
Okay.
also going to visit Germany and Finland and Latvia on that trip. So um, I'm really looking forward to that because it's in the summertime, and um, I'm looking forward to like riding my bike in a few different places. That's one of my favorite ways to explore cities. I think bikes are a really great way to see
Mhm.
a place. So that's like a big trip I have coming up, and then I'm in the process of like kind of planning out the rest of my year. So not too sure on the rest of it, but I
No, you
hope.
got what, 15 more to plan.
What was that?
You got 15 more trips to plan.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, I love just kind of planning on a whim. Like when the cheap flight deals come, I follow.
Mhm.
So
I
yeah.
like it. I like it. Well, Katie, anything else that you want to share on your travels this past year?
Um, no, just like I said before, just like if you're thinking about going somewhere or doing something, just do it. I
Mhm.
think that's like the best piece of advice because yeah, life really is fleeting, and the only thing waiting does is rob you of like your own happiness and enjoyment. It doesn't like rob the people that you're waiting for. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I 100% agree with that. Um, well, awesome. Katie, I really appreciate it. Inspired me to go to some different places, so thank you for that. Making my travel list even longer. But it was great chatting with you, and I'm looking forward to seeing your travels this year as well.
Thanks. It was fun chatting with you.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have a great rest of the evening, and I'll see you somewhere around the world soon.
I hope so.
All right, that's Hey everybody, Kyle here. If you enjoyed today's show and want more, you can always check out every episode on Spotify, Anchor, YouTube, and now Amazon Music as well. Just search for Our Travel Experiences on any of those platforms and it will pop up. You can also find everything all in one place on my website, ourtravelexp.com. And if you want to see my travel pictures as well as travel pictures from guests on the show, you can check them out on Instagram. The page is called Our Travel Experiences Podcast. And if you want to share your own pictures on the Instagram page or be a guest on the podcast, you can message me via that Instagram page or email me at ourtravelexperiences@outlook.com. I would love to see your pictures and hear about your travel experiences, so please send them my way. And if that isn't enough for you, make sure to check out my weekly YouTube show, From Around the World Fridays. Every Friday, I'm taking 5 to 10 minutes to answer questions from listeners, share some souvenirs that I bought over the years, share my postcards over the years that I've accumulated, or share videos and pictures from one particular city or country that I visited, and so much more. So check it out, guys. You won't be disappointed. And make sure you go subscribe to that as well. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you somewhere around the world soon.